You're live from New Delhi, you're watching the India News Hour, India's Voice to the World. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. French President Macron warns Ukraine peace deal cannot mean surrender after meeting with US President Trump. UN Security Council adopts US drafted resolution on Ukraine conflict as Trump pursues peace. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate Advantage Assam 2.0 Investment and Infrastructure Summit 2025 in Guwahati. Pope Francis' condition shows slight improvement as the pontiff spent 11th day in hospital with double pneumonia. New Zealand defeats Bangladesh, seals the fate of Pakistan as well as the host suffer ignominious exit from the Champions Trophy. Kiwis India confirmed semi-final berths. On to the details now. US President Donald Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron reaffirmed their commitment to ending the conflict in Ukraine during a joint press conference in Washington, D.C. on Monday. French President Emmanuel Macron warned that peace cannot mean the surrender of Ukraine, but said talks with US President Donald Trump had shown a path forward despite fears of a transatlantic rift. Trump emphasized the urgency of securing a ceasefire and achieving lasting peace, stating that his administration has engaged in direct talks with both Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He underscored that the invasion would never have happened under his previous presidency.
I'm also pleased that President Macron agrees that the cost and burden of securing the peace must be borne by the nations of Europe, not alone by the United States. And Europe must take that central role in assuring long-term security of Ukraine, which they want to do. And that's not a very big step. The big step is what's going to happen over the next few weeks. We must have an agreement with Ukraine on critical minerals and rare earths and various other things as security. And I think that that's happening. I think we've made a lot of progress. I had a report just given to me before walking in that we've made, Emmanuel, a great deal of progress toward getting that.
While French President arrived at the White House on Monday for a call with G7 leaders, Macron said that he and Trump were agreed on wanting a swift peace, though he added it must not be a capitulation for Ukraine, starting with a truce and then a peace deal that includes security guarantees.
Nous voulons la paix.
We want peace. That peace cannot mean capitulation by Ukraine. That peace cannot be a ceasefire with no guarantees. That peace must include the conditions for Ukrainian sovereignty, allowing Ukraine to negotiate with all actors on the issues which concern it and for which it is the only party which can legitimately negotiate. But it's a peace for which we need to assume our responsibilities to maintain security and stability for Ukraine and for the whole region in the long term. And for we Europeans, that's an existential question.
Well, Macron corrected US President after Trump said Europe would get its money back from Ukraine and when Trump said Europe was loaning the money to Ukraine.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money. To be clear, we have 230 billion frozen assets in Europe, Russian assets, but this is not as a collateral of a loan because this is not our belonging. So they are frozen. If at the end of the day, in the negotiation we will have with Russia, they're ready to give it to us. Super. It will be done at the end of the day, and Russia will have paid for that.
Well, Macron also met with U.S. senators at the Capitol Hill after his joint press conference with Trump at the White House. Macron is the first European leader to visit Trump since he regained the presidency a month ago. He called his discussions with Trump a turning point in the drive for a more unified approach. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is also set to visit Trump later in the week, while Trump said he was confident of bringing an end to the conflict and that he expected Zelensky at the White House in the next 2 weeks to sign a deal granting Washington access to Ukraine's rare minerals. Well, the United Nations Security Council on Monday adopted a U.S.-drafted resolution marking the 3rd anniversary of Ukraine conflict, calling for an end to the hostilities. The U.S. resolution received 10 votes in favor, while France, Britain, Denmark, Greece and Slovenia abstained. Until now, the 15-member council has been unable to take any action on the conflict in Ukraine because Russia is a veto power. The short resolution mourns the loss of life in the Russian-Ukraine conflict, reiterates the UN's purpose is to maintain international peace and security and peacefully settle disputes, and urges a swift end to the conflict and a lasting peace. Acting U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Doordarshan, told the council that the resolution puts us on the path to peace and it is the first step which we should be proud of.
This resolution puts us on the path to peace. It is a first step, but a crucial one of which we should all be proud. Now we must use it to build a peaceful future for Ukraine, Russia, and the international community.
Well, early on Monday, the UN General Assembly rejected a U.S.-drafted resolution, which was later passed only after being amended to state. The General Assembly also adopted a European-backed Ukrainian resolution demanding the immediate withdrawal of Russian troops and condemning the conflict as a violation of the UN Charter. The resolution, tabled by the United States, only passed after a majority of member states voted to add EU-led amendments, which led to the U.S. abstaining on its own motion and voting against the Ukrainian text. However, the text in original U.S. resolution was passed hours later in the Security Council, the first to do so since the start of the conflict in Ukraine. The two General Assembly draft resolutions put before UN member states during the morning session both ostensibly called for peace and an end to the conflict, but diverged fundamentally. Well, Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Monday that Russia was not opposed to Europe's involvement in Russia-US peace talks aimed at settling the conflict in Ukraine. Putin, in an interview on Russian state television, said it was logical for Europe to take part in talks on a settlement to the 3-year-old conflict. He added that Russia never rejected the idea, but it was Brussels, meaning the European Union, which had long rejected any dialogue with Moscow. Putin also backed a suggestion by U.S. counterpart Trump for Russia, the United States to cut their defense budgets in half. Russia and the United States held an initial round of talks on Ukraine last week in Saudi Arabia. And for more on this, we have Akshay Dongre joining us. Well, Akshay, good morning. What impact do you think the U.S. drafted resolution in UNSC will have on the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, especially given the abstentions from the key members like France, Britain, and others?
Well, there seems to be a lot of deadlocks now being formed in the United Nations as far as these kind of resolutions are concerned, especially when you talk about the United Nations Security Council. The present model of the body remains so flawed that it can hardly get anything done when it involves any of the major power or the P5 countries the countries that hold the veto power. For example, any kind of resolution that comes in against Russia can be vetoed very simply by Russia itself. Any kind of resolution that has been brought against the Western countries by Russia or China can be vetoed by them. Therefore, all the 5 countries seems to be the superpowers as far as the hierarchy of the world order is concerned, and that perhaps is the reason why there have been repeated calls for a restructuring of the United Nations Security Council and making it a more present-day body as opposed to the present structure that it has that was formed after the Second World War, and therefore not much is expected as far as the resolution is concerned of the United States, especially now with key members abstaining, like you rightly mentioned. So there seems to be a situation of going into once again in a deadlock, and therefore any kind of expectation from the United Nations seems to be going in vain. However, if you look at the present-day conflict, it seems to be quite interesting, because the kind of turn of events that have taken place, it is highly unlikely that any major decision can be taken by the Western powers as long as Trump is not on board with it. Therefore, we will have to wait and watch that what exactly happens with this UN resolution that you're talking about.
Right.
That has been proposed by the United States. However,
absolutely.
It seems that the US and Russia are now going to be the only determining factors as far as this war is concerned.
Absolutely a wait and watch situation there. Also, Akshay, given President Putin's comments about Europe's involvement in peace talks and the recent US-Russia discussions in Saudi Arabia, how do you see the role of European nations evolving in the diplomatic efforts to end the Ukraine conflict?
Well, Lipakshi, the role of European countries, instead of going up, is going down significantly, especially after the election of Donald Trump, who has outright said that Russia has to be on board. But you also have to take into account that it was the European powers that we are talking about who supported Zelensky and who supported Ukraine as far as this war against Russia from the Ukrainian side is concerned, and therefore any kind of major help coming in from the European powers is not expected. But that is what Ukraine is hoping for. That even if the US has backed out, the European countries will continue to support the war effort in Ukraine. But that also seems unlikely. So as far as the European role is concerned, Putin has said it that he's not opposed to the European role in the war. But that is also clearly because he also realizes that it's sort of a gesture that has been given by Russia, because not a lot can be done by the European countries on their own without the US support, and US support has clearly changed as far as this entire war is concerned. So things seem to be going in Russia's way as of now, with Zelensky offering to resign if Ukraine becomes a member of the NATO, and that also seems to be an impossible scenario as far as the present situation is concerned, because joining NATO was the first reason or the major reason why this war took place in the first place. So it remains to be seen that what exactly is going to be the European role, but it seems to be declining very, very rapidly in the recent days.
All right. Thank you so much, Akshay, for all those insights. And moving on, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth welcomed Saudi Arabia's Defense Minister Prince Khalid bin Salman to the Pentagon, saying the United States' partnership with Saudi Arabia matters a great deal. The Saudi Defense Minister's visit comes after the kingdom had recently hosted U.S. and Russian officials to discuss the conflict in Ukraine and restoring broader Russia-U.S. ties. Hegseth thanked Saudi Arabia for hosting the talks.
On behalf of President Trump, welcome. And as you know, he's made it clear in his administration we're gonna pursue peace through strength and put America first. But that does not mean ignoring partnerships. And in fact, it requires greater attention to the ones that matter the most. And our partnership with Saudi Arabia matters a great deal.
Well, ahead of the visit, the Saudi Defense Ministry said the purpose of the minister's trip was to discuss bilateral relations with the U.S. and issues of common interest. And U.S. President Donald Trump said on Monday the tariffs he unveiled on Canada and Mexico are moving forward as planned. Addressing reporters after meeting with French counterpart Emmanuel Macron, who urged for fair competition in trade, Trump reiterated his view that the United States had been mistreated by its neighbors and allies. The two leaders' talks come as Trump has threatened allies and adversaries alike with steep tariffs, sparking a flurry of negotiations. Shortly after taking office, Trump announced announced duties of up to 25% on Canadian and Mexican imports, citing illegal immigration and the flow of deadly fentanyl. But he issued a last-minute halt to the levies for a month as talks continued.
We're on time with the tariffs, and it seems like that's moving along very rapidly. We've been mistreated very badly by many countries, not just Canada and Mexico. We've been taken advantage of. We were led by, in some cases, fools, because anybody that would sign documents like they signed, where they were able to take advantage of the American people, like has happened over the last long period of time, except for a little 4-year period that took place 4 years ago. But anybody that would agree to allow this to happen to our country should be ashamed of themselves. No, the tariffs are going forward on time, on schedule.
Well, while European industry ministers will meet in Paris on Thursday to discuss measures to maintain steel production in Europe in response to U.S. tariffs, Europe's steel industry is reeling from U.S. President Donald Trump's executive order to impose 25% tariffs on steel and aluminium imports from March 12th, despite warnings from Brussels. Ministers from some 15 European steel-producing countries are expected at the Paris meeting to share findings and solutions with other stakeholders in the steel industry. Both companies and unions are expected to sign a joint declaration on protecting Europe's steel industry. And you're watching TT India News now. Time for a short break right now. Welcome back. You're watching TT India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, Friedrich Merz is set to take charge as Germany's next chancellor, but with no party securing a clear majority. The real challenge now is to form a stable government. As coalition talks take center stage, Merz says he intends to form a coalition with the center-left Social Democrats of outgoing Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Merz has vowed to restore Germany's influence in Europe while navigating a rapidly shifting global landscape. Here's how the political equation stands.
Germany's political map has been redrawn, setting the stage for a new era of conservative leadership. Friedrich Merz, CDU-CSU bloc emerged as the clear winner in the final election results, securing 28.5% votes.
As Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, I will once again play an active role in shaping European policy, and with me, Germany will once again have a strong voice in the European Union.
Olaf Scholz' Social Democrats had to chew a bitter pill as it registered its worst performance in history, gaining just 16.4% votes. And for far-right alternative for Germany, AfD, it was nothing less than a dream come true. They secured their best ever result by gaining 20.8% votes.
We have doubled our result in 3 years, an incredible success. We are the People's Party, the second strongest force in Germany.
This is bitter election result for the Social Democratic Party. This is also an electoral defeat that I think has to be clearly stated after such a result.
So with no party securing a majority, chance for coalition government again looms large. This could be a daunting task for Friedrich Merz. His best chance is a grand coalition with Scholz' SPD.
Together with the mandates of the Social Democrats, which account for 120 members of parliament, we are naturally capable of forming a government with 328 seats out of 630, a black-red coalition, and that is exactly what we want.
The Greens, who secured 11.6%, could be another possible coalition partner, though CDU's Bavarian sister party, the CSU, has opposed this idea. The pro-business FDP, which triggered the collapse of Scholz's government, barely scraped past the 5% threshold to stay in parliament, leaving its role uncertain. This year's election also marked the end of the controversial overhang seat system, which had previously expanded the Bundestag beyond its official 630 seats. The election comes at a critical moment for Europe, with US President Donald Trump reshaping transatlantic relations and pushing for direct talks with Russia to end the Ukraine conflict. Merz has already called for a stronger European defense policy, warning that US is growing indifferent to Europe's security needs. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, to discuss more about what this means for Germany, let's cross to Thomas Sparrow, our correspondent with the Partners DW in Berlin. Well, Thomas, Germany's next chancellor will likely be Friedrich Merz. What can we expect out there?
Friedrich Merz will most likely be Germany's next chancellor. And I say most likely because he obviously first has to look for a coalition partner and form a coalition, a process which could take some time. But if everything goes according to his plans, he will be Germany's next leader, replacing Olaf Scholz from the Social Democrats. Friedrich Merz is 69 years old and he would become Germany's oldest chancellor in decades. And his political career within the CDU-CSU has been actually a very interesting one, because he was a member of parliament until 2009, then left politics altogether to enter the business sector and returned in 2021. And that space where he left active politics had to do with the fact that his main rival within the CDU-CSU conservative bloc was none other than Angela Merkel, who would then become German Chancellor for 16 years. What you can expect from Friedrich Merz is that he will move his party from the center-right more towards the right of the political spectrum. Whereas Angela Merkel had shifted her party to the center, it's expected that Friedrich Merz will shift the party more towards the right, for example, on issues like migration, specifically how to target irregular migration, how to limit the number of irregular migrants that come to Germany. An important question for Friedrich Merz is what kind of concessions he's willing to make when he is looking for those coalition partners in the next few days and in the next few weeks. He has indicated that he would like to have a fast coalition negotiation, but that will also determine to what extent he will be a strong chancellor and to what extent he will be able to pass some of his most important policies once he's in office.
All right, Thomas, also in the present situation, how easy will it be for him to form a coalition?
It won't be easy for Friedrich Merz and his conservative bloc to form a coalition. In the past, coalition building in Germany has actually proven to be a rather difficult activity. There was one time not long ago where coalition building actually took nearly 6 months, and that essentially meant that Germany didn't have a functioning government for that time. Now, Friedrich Merz has indicated that he would like to form a coalition quickly as possible, and he's looking to do that until Easter time. But if it was difficult in the past, it will be even more difficult now, given national and international challenges that Germany is facing. Nationally, obviously, an economy that is in a difficult state, the issue of migration, which is becoming much more complicated, the issue of security, which is one that is also important for many voters. And in those issues, Friedrich Merz does not necessarily see eye to eye with some other members of parliament, for example, from the Social Democrats, a party with which he could end up forming a coalition. So it promises to be a difficult challenge for him and for his conservative bloc, and it will be interesting to see whether he manages to achieve his goal to have a coalition in place by the time Easter comes.
All right. Also, Thomas, what role will the AfD play, especially in Germany, going forward now?
There's no doubt that the AfD has cemented its influence as Germany's main opposition party by achieving 20% of the vote, by doubling its result compared to 2021. It is clear that the AfD will play an important role in German politics coming in the next few years. It doesn't mean that they will be governing or that they will have power, because what is clear is that Friedrich Merz, and by the way, all other parties in parliament have vowed that they will not cooperate with the AFD, that they will not form coalitions with the AFD. The AFD candidate, Alice Weidel, has actually said that she would be willing to negotiate with Friedrich Merz, that she would be willing to discuss possible coalitions, but that is something that Friedrich Merz has clearly ruled out, saying that it is not in his party's interest and that basically the CDU, CSU and the AFD have very little in common. So the most likely scenario for the AFD is that they will be a strong party in opposition, and it's interesting to actually note that they're also strongest in the eastern part of the country. That is also a region where they will have considerable influence in political decisions. But again, from the opposition, not from a position of government.
All right, Thomas, thank you so much for all those details. And moving on, South Korea's ousted President Yoon Suk-yeol faces his final impeachment hearing on Tuesday before judges decide whether to formally remove him from office over his disastrous martial law declaration. While Yoon's short-lived suspension of civilian rule plunged democratic South Korea into political turmoil and he was removed from office by parliament in December, the 64-year-old has been behind bars since he was arrested last month on charges of insurrection, for which he could be sentenced to life in prison or even face the death penalty. His trial began last week. After weeks of fraught impeachment hearings at Seoul's Constitutional Court, Tuesday's court session will be Yoon's last before the 8 judges go behind closed doors to decide his fate. The ousted president is expected to deliver a closing argument in his defense, with representatives of parliament given time to present the case for his removal. A verdict is widely expected in mid-March. And for more on this, we have Anil Thomas joining us from Delhi. Well, Anil, with the final hearing of President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial today, what key points do you expect to dominate and what could influence the judge's decision finally?
Well, good morning, Lipakshi. Well, this particular, final round or the 11th round of hearing that takes place today is going to be a no-holds-bar one. For the simple reason, the Constitution judge has said there's going to be no time frame for the closing arguments to be made. And this is expected on 10:30 this morning Indian Standard Time, where the deliberations are going to be long. Remember, there is a time frame of 180 days that's been given to the Constitution bench, and they're going to take maybe close to mid-March, 15 days to 16 days to get this order. Let's also take a flashback at how the Constitution bench has worked when it comes to former presidents being charged for impeachment. We have two examples of it in the past. One where a permission was given for impeachment, the other where it was rejected. In both the cases, the time frame taken was 11 and 14 days. So it's going to be almost a fortnight that these judges are going to sit and deliberate on what exactly needs to be done. And let's also understand the process. There are close to 9 judges, so you need 6 judges on board for the impeachment process to take place. In either places, Yoon Suk-yeol seems to be on a back foot. Let's suppose if they go ahead and decide that he needs to be impeached, then all the covers, all the security covers that he has gets offloaded. That's not all the protection that he has from courts will also get offloaded. Along with that, South Korea gets pushed into an elections within 6 months of time, and that's too much at this point of time, especially for South Korea, where a country that's facing upheaval from many fronts. I think we'll have to wait and watch how this particular closing arguments end today, and then look at what is the judgment that's coming. Is it for the impeachment to be upheld, or is he going to get a reprieve from this?
All right, Anil, thank you so much for all those insights. And moving on, amid global concern over the health of Pope Francis, the Vatican in its evening bulletin on Monday announced that the critical clinical conditions of the Holy Father demonstrate a slight improvement. The 88-year-old pontiff was admitted to Rome's Gemelli Hospital on February 14th with breathing difficulties, but his condition worsened with his bronchitis developing into double pneumonia. Support and prayers for Pope Francis' health pour in as hundreds of faithful praying for the speedy recovery of the Holy Father. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Delhi government set to table CAG reports on its predecessor AAP government's performance in Delhi Assembly. Stay with us for the latest from Mahakumbh as devotees eagerly await the last snan on occasion of Shivratri tomorrow. And Delhi police registers FIR after New York-Delhi flight was diverted due to bomb threats.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. French President Macron warns Ukraine peace deal cannot mean surrender after meeting with US President Trump. UN Security Council adopts US drafted resolution on Ukraine conflict as Trump pursues peace. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate Advantage Assam 2.0 Investment and Infrastructure Summit 2025 in Guwahati. Pope Francis' condition shows slight improvement as the pontiff spent 11th day in hospital with double pneumonia. And New Zealand defeats Bangladesh, seals the fate of Pakistan as well as the hosts suffer ignominious exit from the Champions Trophy. Kiwis India confirm semi-final berths. Well, moving on, during his visit to the northeastern state of Assam, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also inaugurate the Advantage Assam 2.0 Investment and Infrastructure Summit 2025 in Guwahati. The summit will include an inaugural session, 7 ministerial sessions and 14 thematic sessions, a comprehensive exhibition illustrating the state's economic landscape with a focus on its industrial evolution, global trade partnerships, booming industries and the vibrant MSME sector, featuring over 240 exhibitors. Various international organizations, global leaders and investors, policymakers, industry experts, startups and students, among others, will participate in the summit. And on his arrival in Assam, Prime Minister Narendra Modi received a grand welcome as he made his way to the venue of Jhumoy Binandani program. The Jhumoy Binandani 2025 event was organized to mark the 200th anniversary of Assam's tea industry, showcasing the largest ever Jhumar dance performance in history by 8,600 artists from tea garden areas across the state.
ও চির বিনন্দিয়া তোমার হিউজ পরিবেশ ভারতরে পূর্ব দিকর সূর্য উঠাবে বহাগতে আমারে আয়
All right, and more on this, we have Ajay Mishra joining us from Guwahati. Well, Ajay, Prime Minister Modi will inaugurate the Advantage Assam 2.0 Investment and Infrastructure Summit 2025 today in Guwahati. Tell us the highlights and what all is expected.
Thanks, Lipakshi. Advantage Assam 2.0 is very important milestone for economy of Assam because Assam, I think after Gujarat, is only state which has recorded 12.6% of GDP, state GDP growth in the last one decade, and last year in 2023-24, it recorded GDP growth rate of over 19%. This is the growth story which Assam, along with its cultural diversity, would like to tell to the investors from throughout the world that here is a state which is a gateway to Southeast Asia, which is a huge market of $840 billion, and it can prove to be a giant space for their investment and for the returns. There are 8 focus sectors starting from ecotourism to renewable energy and hydrocarbons, aerospace and defense manufacturing. I just wanted to tell you that just ahead of this very important summit, the state government have come out with this new aerospace and defense manufacturing, which means that they are expecting some kind of big ticket investment into this sector. They have also come up with a startup policy 2025 ahead of this summit, very important. Biodiversity Act has been introduced for the second time. Fragrance and flavors, mobility and logistics, bamboo and sustainable harvest and food and beverage. These are some of the focus sectors, and not to forget that $3.3 billion of investment which has been announced by Tatas are going to be a big boost for the investors as well as for the young population out here in Assam. So yes, Advantage Assam 2.0 is all set to welcome investors from across the world. There are 14 countries, 14 partner countries which are expected to participate, and over 60 mission heads are accompanying our External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, and they are expected to join this Prime Minister's address, which is going to start at 11 o'clock here in Guwahati. Dipakshi.
All right, Ajay. All right. Also, with over 240 exhibitors and participation from global leaders and international organizations, how do you think Advantage Assam 2.0 Summit will impact the state's position in global trade and investments, particularly regarding Assam's evolving industrial landscape, as you mentioned, and the role of MSMEs?
I think these are very important sectors, as you just mentioned, that MSME is the backbone of Assamese economy, and we understand that going forward, the focus sectors that we just mentioned, this is, remember, this is Infrastructure and Investment Summit, so we are expecting big ticket announcement on the front of infrastructure, because Nitin Gadkari, who is known as the infrastructure man of India, is also participating. Finance Ministry is expected to is also expecting here to address the valedictory session. Hardeep Singh Puri, who is Minister for Petroleum and Hydrocarbons, will be here. Highways to Assam will be addressed by the Telecom Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia, who is also the Donor Minister. Act First, Act Fast will be the session will be addressed by S. Jaishankar, who will be accompanied by more than 60 diplomats out here. So it's a full circle for Assam, where whole economic affairs cabinet will be present tomorrow. But today is the day of big message from the Prime Minister. I think the big message he is going to give to the investors, that this is the right time to come to Assam and take advantage of the new policies that has been come up, and the infrastructure development that has been the focus of the central as well as the state governments, which will contribute to not just developed Assam but to the developed India in general. Everyone is expecting big ticket announcement, not to forget the MSME and the bamboo based horticulture and biodiversity, which is the backbone of the Assamese economies, and we expect that some investment oriented and employment oriented announcements are going to come up in a short while from now.
All right, big announcements are awaited there. Thank you so much, Ajay, for all those details from there. And moving on, the Consulate General of India in Toronto recently hosted a special event highlighting the inaugural Wave Summit 2025. The gathering also honored winners of key diaspora initiatives. Here's Tarun Paul with the report.
The Chancery building of the Consulate General of India in Toronto was abuzz as community leaders, media professionals and guests converged for a celebration mark the upcoming Wave Summit 2025.
There are 2 or 3 key features of this summit. One is, of course, the global media dialogue, which will be an exclusive session for the thought leaders, ministers and dignitaries from across the globe. The second part would be Create in India Challenge, which is more relevant for you. There are 22 challenges that are open to foreign participants, and the list is being updated on our social media platforms every day. So feel free to participate in those. And then there is a thought leader plenary session where the experts of the industry will be talking about. And finally, the Waves Bazaar, which is really a unique initiative. It is about so many people who have become influencers, and not everyone is a big influencer, but the upcoming budding ones. So they can participate on the Waves Bazaar platform, which is pretty much like a marketplace for M&E sector.
Most important aspect is that India has level of resources, the best technology and the best people, an amazing culture to represent global cinema, and I am so thankful that Wave's happening where it can bring a global of audience and people and bring them to India where we can produce and shoot a lot of films.
From a cultural exchange to panel discussion, the evening underscored the immense potential of creative collaboration. Organizers also offered a glimpse of upcoming initiatives from Wave Summit 2025, which promises to elevate global standing in the creative industries.
We've already started the campaign here. It's really gaining popularity amongst the Indo-Canadians here as well as the Canadians. Today we had a special event where we talked about the Waves, what are the contests that it offers, and I'm very happy to see the excitement in the community for the event, and especially the youngsters who have joined today. They are excited to participate, and we will continue to advertise it for much more in the coming 2 months, and I'm hoping to have a larger delegation from Canada for Waves 2025.
So this is a great initiative to bring the whole world on the one single platform, and many radios also is participating in that. This is a great initiative by the Indian government.
The storytelling, the regional content, the historical content, all of that is now finding a new platform, and this summit I'm sure is going to increase and diversify the type of entertainment, the type of education, the type of versatility that Indian media entertainment deserves.
Reporting from Toronto, Tarun Paul Singh.
Well, the Delhi police has registered an FIR a day after a New York-Delhi flight received a potential bomb threat on Sunday. The case has been lodged under section of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita along with section 3 of the Suppression of Unlawful Acts Against Safety of Civil Aviation Act at the IGI Airport Police Station. Security agencies are now in overdrive, probing the origins of the threat and ensuring the safety of future air travel. The Delhi-bound American Airlines Boeing Dreamliner from New York to Delhi was forced to divert to Rome due to security threat. The flight with 199 passengers and 15 crew members was grounded for nearly 15 hours before flying to their destination. And the Bharatiya Janata Party-led Delhi government is set to table 14 pending Comptroller and Auditor General of India reports on the previous Aam Aadmi Party government's performance in the Delhi Assembly on Tuesday. The reports will be tabled on the second day of the first session of the newly formed 8th Delhi Assembly. The BJP has accused the AAP administration of deliberately withholding these reports, raising questions about transparency and governance during its tenure. The pending CAG audits include reviews of state finances, public health infrastructure, vehicular air pollution, liquor regulation and the functioning of the Delhi Transport Corporation, among others. The BJP had repeatedly demanded the release of these reports during the AAP's tenure, even moving the court to direct the government to table them. The Saffron Party had accused the AAP government of deliberately stalling the audits to hide alleged corruption. The issue was a major point of contention during the assembly elections, with the BJP highlighting the delay as an attempt to suppress findings of financial mismanagement. And the Mahakumbh 2025 in Prayagraj has drawn an overwhelming number of devotees to the sacred Triveni Sangam, the confluence of Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati rivers. Displaying unwavering faith and devotion, over 63 crore pilgrims have already taken the holy dip, seeking spiritual purification and blessings. People from across India and the world continue to arrive daily, marking Mahakumbh a global spiritual spectacle. The Mahakumbh 2025 is not just a religious gathering, but a reflection of the rich spiritual heritage and enduring faith of millions. As the sacred waters of the Triveni Sangam witness history, the event continues to inspire devotion, unity and cultural pride. Well, a huge turnout of devotees is expected to take the holy dip at Sangam during the 6th and final bathing festival on Mahashivratri on Wednesday. The state government is geared up to ensure that the 45-day mega event ends peacefully. For the final bathing festival, the administration has put in place traffic restrictions to deal with the heavy influx of pilgrims. Zonal bathing plan would remain in effect for the final bathing festival, wherein people would take the holy dip at any of the 48 bathing ghats located nearest to them. And in yet another feat in the ongoing Mahakumbh, 15,000 sanitation workers participated in a synchronized cleaning drive across multiple venues to create a Guinness World Record of mass sweeping. With this, the state government and the Prayagraj Fair Authority broke their previous record created in Kumbh 2019, when 10,000 sanitation workers set the record. However, the final result of this record attempt are expected to be announced on the February 27th. Well, one of the most heartwarming aspects of Mahakumbh is the tradition of community kitchens or bhandaras that serve millions of devotees. The scale of these kitchens is extraordinary, ensuring that no pilgrim goes hungry. DD India's Siddharth Bharadwaj reports for more.
The Mahakumbh 2025 is not just a spiritual gathering. It's a celebration of unity, love and devotion. And at the heart of this massive congregation lies the community kitchens, which serves millions of devotees every day.
Mahakumbh is more than just a spiritual gathering. It is a confluence of faith, culture and devotion. Every 12 years, millions of devotees from across the world converged at the Triveni Sangam, the sacred confluence of River Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati. But beyond the rituals and prayers, there is another profound aspect of this grand event, seva or selfless service. And at the heart of this service lie the community kitchens, ensuring that no pilgrim goes hungry. But this event is not just about spiritual awakening. It is also about compassion and service. With millions arriving each day, feeding such a vast gathering becomes a monumental task. To ensure that no devotee sleeps hungry, hundreds of community kitchens have been set up across the Mahakumbh grounds, run by ashrams, charitable trusts and volunteers. These kitchens serve thousands of meals round the clock, embodying the true spirit of selfless service.
खाना बहुत अच्छा है, जिस हिसाब से इतने सारे लोगों की व्यवस्था बनाना बहुत बड़ी बात है.
Managing such a large congregation is no easy task. Organizers work tirelessly to ensure the distribution of food happens in an orderly manner, maintaining discipline and hygiene while serving lakhs of people every day.
दिन में लाखों लोग सुबह 11 बजे से लेकर 3 बजे तक, शाम का 7 बजे से लेकर 11 बजे तक दोनों टाइम चल रहे हैं. दिन में लाखों श्रद्धालु है यहाँ आके अन्न सेवा का भोजन कर रहे हैं.
Mahakumbh is not just a journey of devotion. It is a journey of self-exploration and community bonding. And for many, sharing a meal at these kitchens add to their spiritual experience, reinforcing the belief that serving others is the highest form of worship.
This is the confluence of love, emotion, devotion, where people from all walks of life come here. These community kitchens play a pivotal role to ensure no one sleeps hungry. And their dedication is a living testament of the power of selflessness and compassion.
All right, time now for a short break. We'll be back in a while.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DT India News Now. Lepakshi Kuranan on to some business news now. The coffee house chain Starbucks is set to lay off 1,100 corporate employees as CEO Brian Nicol pushes ahead with his turnaround efforts that have been struggling with falling sales. Nicol told employees in a letter that are simplifying our structure, removing layers and duplication and creating smaller, more nimble teams with an intent to operate more efficiently and increase accountability among other goals. Since taking the helm 6 months ago, Starbucks shares have rebounded more than 22%. They were marginally up in early trading on Monday. Starbucks employs about 211,000 people in the US and around 150,000 employees internationally, according to its 2024 report. Well, the company also said it was removing a few less popular beverages from the menu, including several Frappuccino blended beverages and the white hot chocolate in line with Nicol's push to simplify its menu. And the tech giant Apple has said that it plans to invest more than $500 billion in the United States over the next 4 years, including plans to hire 20,000 people and build a new server factory in Texas. Well, the move announced on Monday comes just days after US President Donald Trump said Apple CEO Tim Cook promised him that the tech giant's manufacturing would shift from Mexico to the US. Trump noted the company was doing so to avoid paying tariffs. The pledge likely includes all of Apple's spending in the US, including government, general and administrative costs, and it was unclear whether the announcement represents an acceleration in spending. Apple made a similar announcement about its U.S. spending plans in 2018 during the first Trump administration, when it said its new and ongoing investments would contribute $350 billion to the U.S. economy over 5 years. An artificial intelligence startup, Anthropic, has released the world's first hybrid reasoning AI model that can outperform other models to solve more complex problems in maths and coding. Along with Claude 3.7 Sonnet, the San Francisco-based company is making available in a limited research preview a digital agent called Claude Code, tailored to be a tool for software developers. Amazon-backed Anthropic described Claude Code as able to search and read code, edit files, run tests, and more. The release comes as AI companies are pushing out new products at a fast pace and with innovations quickly reproduced by rivals, often at a lower cost, raising concerns about finding a return on the massive investments. And Chinese tech giant Alibaba announced on Monday it will spend more than $50 billion on artificial intelligence and cloud computing over the next 3 years. The decision came a week after co-founder Jack Ma was seen meeting with President Xi Jinping. The firm said its strategy was aimed at reinforcing commitment to long-term technological innovation and underscores the company's focus on AI-driven growth. Investors have piled into Chinese technology stocks since the start of the year, with Alibaba, which runs some of the country's biggest online shopping platforms, seeing its shares soar to 3-year high. But shares of the e-commerce behemoth nosedived in New York after the big investment push raised worries that the spending would dent profitability. Well, you're watching DT India News. Our time now for some sports news. India made it to the semi-finals of the Champions Trophy 2025 and Pakistan suffered an early exit from the tournament after New Zealand defeated Bangladesh on Monday. India will face New Zealand in the first semi-final on March 2nd. For Pakistan, it's a huge embarrassment as the defending champions were not able to progress past the group stages in their first ICC tournament at home in 29 years. Early on Sunday, India defeated Pakistan by 6 wickets with a disciplined bowling performance and Virat Kohli's magnificent 100 in Dubai. Pakistan came into the tournament with high hopes of retaining the crown on home soil. However, things would take a turn for the worse as New Zealand defeated Pakistan in their first match itself. And riding on Rachin Ravindra's stun, New Zealand chased down the 237-run target to beat Bangladesh by 5 wickets in Rawalpindi on Monday. Earlier, Michael Bracewell did the star turn with a 4-wicket haul as New Zealand restricted Bangladesh to 236 for 9. Off-spinner Bracewell finished with excellent figures of 4 for 26 in 10 years. Meanwhile, captain Najmul Hussain Shanto top scored for Bangladesh with a 77 that came off 110 balls, while Zakir Ali chipped in with 45 off 55 balls. And South Africa are sweating on the fitness of powerful middle-order batter Hendrik Klaasen for their Champions Trophy clash against Australia on Tuesday. Klaasen missed the opener with an elbow injury and is in a race against time to play in Rawalpindi on Tuesday. Skipper Themba Bavuma told reporters on Monday that they are assessing his fitness and the medical team will make a decision accordingly. Australia are missing 3 frontline bowlers in Pat Cummins, Josh Hazlewood and Mitchell Starc in their squad. As the top 2 teams are set to take on each other, the winner will have 1 foot in the knockout rounds. Another very good day in hockey for Team India as both the men and women teams lost to England and Netherlands respectively on Monday. Indian men's hockey team failed to maintain their winning momentum, going down 3-2 to England. India wasted 8 penalty corners and were unable to find a way past goalkeeper James Mazzarello. Abhishek and Gurjant tried from open play. Harmanpreet, Jugraj and Neelam Shes also tried them penalty corners, but nothing could get past Mazzarello. Meanwhile, the Indian women, coming off a morale-boosting win against Germany, played their best game of the competition so far despite the 4-2 loss in Netherlands. More importantly, that Indians did not sit back defensively, were not awed by the opponent's reputation and kept trying to make a comeback in the game. And Novak Djokovic will play at West Indian Wells as the Serbian shakes off injury concerns and resumes his hunt for a 100th single title. The 24 times Grand Slam winner retired from his Australian Open semi-final with a hamstring problem last month and lost in the first round of the Qatar Open last week. His disappointing display raised concern that he would not play in the Southern California event. 5 times Indian Wells winner Djokovic will aim to become the 3rd man to claim 100 single titles in the professional era, behind Jimmy Connors and Roger Federer. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India across the world with the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. Well, we'll be back with more news at the break here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.